salespeople are untrustworthy. They waste my time. They talk too much and don't listen enough. They're overpaid. They're only driven by money. And the biggest one of all is like salespeople con you into buying things that you don't want. And I mean, as I like to talk about this, and I shouldn't perpetuate said stereotype, but I mean, at the end of the day, the used car salesman stereotype is something that people think about when they're talking about sales. The shady, sleazy guy who wears plaid and trying to sell you a brand new car that is essentially a lemon, right? And so that's the kind of imagery that people have in their mind when they think about sales. Unfortunately, as an entrepreneur, selling isn't optional for you. So you have to actually learn how to do that, and you have to learn how to be able to do it well. And so that's why we're here today. We want to talk a little bit about, what a sales strategy is, and how you go about doing that for your business. Hang on, Craig, something is happening here. I'm going to just click on this link here while this is happening. So essentially, what is a sales strategy? So a sales strategy is basically a plan for how you will sell your product or service your target audience. And it includes literally the tactics and activities that you're going to be using for generating leads, qualifying your prospects, and closing your deals. So a lot of people look and say, well, why is this important? Well, it's important because it allows you to really focus your efforts on the resources that are going to be the most effective ways for you to generate revenue for your business. And when I talk about sales, there's a few basic principles that I always want people to understand. And it's actually a very, very simple concept when you think about it, but it's something that a lot of people don't really spend a lot of time thinking about. So first off, no. People need to know you before and get familiar with you before they're going to buy from you. As a principle of liking. People have to like what it is that you are presenting to them, and like you as an individual, and think that and believe that you are aligned with their thoughts and how they want to do things. Craig, do you see me there? By the way.
Yeah, I see you coming up.
Okay. And then the last one is. Oh, hang on. Let me just mute this. Because now I'm coming in two places here. Okay, Craig, what would you like me to do? Would you like me to switch to my laptop here?
If you're ready to go, sure.
All right, let me just upload my presentation first. Sorry for the interruption there, people. See, what does this do? You should be seeing my screen now.
It says you
Yay.
started. It's not come up yet, but okay. How to build and maintain a winning sales strategy.
All right. This is the used car salesman I was talking about. Nobody.
Make sure you unmute your laptop. Hang on. Trevor, we can't hear you.
It's because I'm muted, isn't it?
Yes, now we can hear you.
It's because I'm muted, isn't it?
Yes, we couldn't hear you before.
Hang on.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. So where did you lose? Where did we lose me?
As soon
When I
as you
was
switched over to the laptop.
ha shit. Okay, sorry. All right. So yes, I was talking about the whole concept of know, like, and trust, and why you want to have make sure that you understand these things. So the example that I use typically for this is like if you're walking down the street and somebody rolls up to you, opens up their jacket and says, "Hey, I've got the latest iPhones here. Give me your credit card and you can have 3 of them." What are the chances that you're actually going to give them your credit card number and buy? Why? Because you have no idea who this person is. You have no idea what they stand for, and you obviously don't trust them because you just met them and they're just coming at you off the street. Now, if you were to change the location of where that interaction were to happen and say this interaction was perhaps in an Apple store, then you might be more inclined to listen to what they have to say. And then after you've eventually decided on what it is you're going to buy, give them your credit card and give them and buy that new phone. Right. And so the context of how that plays out really matters. Right. And so you have to really understand that concept about when people are looking to buy things. These are 3 very basic principles that is going to help you get to the sale. And so over the course of this conversation, what I want to do is I want to actually kind of use some examples. These aren't real world examples. These are just companies that I just made up. So they don't really have any, they don't actually exist. It's 2 startups that are going to be ready to launch. One is a SaaS HR platform, which I've called Dayforce HR, which is designed for businesses, so B2B. And then the other is the meal delivery service Fresh Foodie Express, which is a B2C product that is about to launch any day now. And so let's move on to the next slide here. So what are the elements of a successful sales strategy? And there's several that we were going to talk about over the course of this presentation, but these are really just the most basic generic things that you need to have as part of your sales strategy. So, and they're not really in any particular order, but they do kind of have a logical path to them. But I mean, you talking about things like creating a value proposition and then creating some messaging and defining a target audience and setting some goals. All right. So creating a value proposition for me in how I work it, it's in order for you to create a targeted message for an audience that you are looking to speak to, you need to understand what it is that they want. And so, defining your target audience, creating your messaging, and a value proposition are all 3 things that kind of go together, right? And then in order for you to figure out who you want, what you want to say to people, you need to know who you're talking to. Right. And so, like I said, they don't necessarily have to happen in any one particular order, but they all kind of go part and parcel with each other. And then you want to start talking about deciding on a sales channel, all right? Implementing a sales process, training your sales team, monitoring and adjusting your strategy as you go, so that once you start getting into the action of doing sales and going out and trying to acquire new customers, you actually have a process and an idea of how it is you're going to be doing these things. And so let's talk a little bit about creating a value proposition. All right. So if you're going to create a value proposition, what are the things that you really want to do about it? You want to really figure out how you can tell people what it is that you do and why it's important to them. Right. And the target audience, depending on who you're talking to, they may have specific needs and specific desires and things that they want. Right. And so you want to make sure that when you're talking to them about your product, it actually is going to meet those needs. And the one thing about a value proposition is it's really helpful to help differentiate yourself from the competition, but it really needs to speak to the core issue that they're having and how your specific product is going to help them get to where they want to go. So back to our example of, our fictional HR products. So back up here. Our product is a cloud-based HR platform that helps small businesses streamline their HR processes to save time and money, and offer a simple, intuitive platform. We offer a simple, intuitive platform that integrates seamlessly with other business tools. We provide excellent customer service support to ensure our users are successful. That is a good value proposition, because it's talking about who it is for, what it is that they're trying to do, and what's the benefit you're going to receive from it. I mean, and you look at the other ones, as our services, subscription-based meal delivery service that sources ingredients from local farms. You're talking about creating healthy meals, talking about supporting local agriculture and reducing waste. If those things are important to your target audience, your value proposition is something that where you want to address that. You want to tell them all of these great things that you do. And then part of that what comes out of your value proposition is now your messaging, right? So now your messaging, you're actually trying to create a compelling message of some sort that is going to clearly communicate what the benefits are of using your product, right? And so you're going to want to use persuasive language that helps you get to where you want to go. You want to be able to, ensure that when you're talking to them, it is effective and precise, and you're actually you are giving them information. You're confident in what it is you're saying, and you're not, hemming and hawing when you're trying to deliver your pitch is really never a good thing from a sales perspective. It actually hurts, in my opinion, it actually hurts your credibility. But when you're starting out, of course that happens, but you really want to be confident in your messaging. Sales is a lot of confidence building, and it can shake your confidence a lot, especially when you're getting a lot of no's. But you need to be, firm and strong in your convictions, and be able to actually deliver your message effectively. So if we want to talk about, some messaging for Dayforce HR, talking about, trying to create a narrative based on help understanding what the challenges are that your customers are facing. So, and you look at the first sentence: are you tired of spending hours in HR tasks like payroll and benefits administration? Well, if your target audience is experiencing those things, they're going to relate to that right away. You are now creating a narrative that relates to a problem that they have, and that they are going to be interested in solving, and then tell them how you're going to solve it. So tell them what it is about your product. So in this case, the product is cloud-based, can be accessed from anywhere, and integrates with your existing tools. Perfect, right? From a customer's perspective, it does exactly what I need it to. And then you're going to give them some additional information by telling them that your customer support is the greatest, right? You look at Fresh Fruity Express. Do you want to eat healthy and don't have the time or energy to meal prep? Building that narrative of what people are actually a problem that somebody might be looking to solve. Right. And if they see that and go, hey, yeah, that's me, I want to read further and I want to know more. Right. So now playing into that whole getting ingredients from local farms and sustainable packaging. Well, that's important to a lot of people, especially these days. Right. And then convenience and affordability, also very important for this particular target audience. So you're creating your messaging to be able to impact and appeal to the things that they're trying to do. In marketing, we have this thing. It's called like a jobs to be done. When you're talking about selling to businesses, it's a really interesting framework in that, when somebody is looking to do something, they actually want something else done. So, for example, if you're at Home Depot and you're selling drills, right? You're actually not selling drills. And why you're not just selling drills? You're actually selling holes in walls. That's the job to be done, right? So somebody doesn't come to Home Depot to buy a drill. They come to Home Depot because they've decided they want to hang a painting in their house that don't have a drill to be able to do it. So they need to go to get a hole in the wall to hang the picture. That's the job to be done, not to buy a drill. And so using that, thinking along that framework is something that, allows, from a marketing perspective, allows you to frame your messaging to be able to say to somebody, hey, I can help you do the things that you're trying to do. And now talking about target audiences, the target audiences is really, a lot of people call them buyer personas. There's a whole host of different terms you can use to look at demographics and economic prosperity and those types of things for businesses. But really, at the end of the day, it's really thinking about just for your ideal customer. What is it that they actually are trying to accomplish? What are they trying to do? Why is it that they would want to buy your particular product? Right. And that's what I tend to refer to as your ideal customer profile. Right. And it's not necessarily about, all the demographic stuff like how old they are, where they live, what they do for a living, how many kids they have, all that type of stuff that you see typically in buyer personas, but just more so what is it they are trying to accomplish. Right. And then, when people when you're trying to attract these types of individuals, they're going to be hanging out in certain places, just like as I'm sure you can imagine for yourself. You read certain magazines, you watch certain television shows, you hang out on certain blog sites, you use social media, all of those things that you do in order for a business to get your attention. They really need to get your attention right in front of where you're at. So case in point, if you're talking about the Fresh Foodie Express business, right? If they figure out that all of their potential customers are on Facebook, but they're doing all Instagram ads, never the two shall meet. Right. And so you really want to be able to say, okay, you know what? I need to put my message in front of the people where they're going to see it with the best option for people to be able to see the message that I've got. Right. And then determining the size and potential of your market is helpful in understanding, from a business perspective, what your actual addressable revenue possibilities are. And understanding that is going to be helpful in trying to figure out how you can grow and scale your business. Is everybody with me so far? Can you actually see anybody? I can't see anybody, so I don't see heads bobbing or anything.
I can't see people, but I can see we've got like 7+ people in and Iman's responding in the chat room. A few people are, so keep going.
Awesome. All right. So to go back to our example of our two businesses here. So for the Dayforce, they've actually figured out that their target audience is going to be small business owners in the healthcare industry, right? Who are looking to, had to manage these specific tasks in their HR functions, right? And so how are they going to actually reach them? Well, they're going to go to industry trade shows and networking events and running targeted online advertising campaigns. I mean, granted, it is not the greatest strategy in the world when it comes to these types of things, but it is something that they've thought about, and they're going to actually go ahead and try to accomplish. Because, I mean, when you're talking about business to business, sometimes you need to get in front of the people who are going to be doing the purchasing. That's just the way it is. And so, online advertising may not necessarily be the best place for you because unless it's an online business publication or where they hang out. But that's just, again, a fictional example, but that's just what I would think of, making sure that we understand where that's actually going to be. And then the other example being for Fresh Foodie Express, their target audience is young professionals in urban areas who are interested in convenient meal options, right? And how they're going to reach them is working with the local fitness studios or maybe co-working spaces. Because, as Craig can attest to this, when you're in a co-working space, sometimes food is the last thing that you think about. It's like, oh, wait, I should probably eat something. Right. And so, how are you going to get that? And, looking for social media channels that are popular with that particular demographic. Right. And so that's how you find an audience for people to be able to see your stuff. And, I've said this on many, many times whenever I talk to people, it's a really simple concept when it comes to sales and marketing. People can't buy your shit if they don't know you exist. And it's really that simple. So in order for you to be able to sell your stuff, you need to get your message in front of people so they actually know that you exist and are able to decide whether or not you can be the person that they want to do business with. And so when you're looking at a sales strategy, it's always helpful to be able to create some goals and some targets just so you can see if you're on track, figure out where you're at. There's this acronym that people tend to use. It's called SMART goals. So it means that you're setting specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound goals so that you can actually see where you're headed and get a feel for the direction that your business is going in, and also allow you to be able to pivot if necessary, right? So establishing metrics is a very important thing. And so going back to our example of Dayforce HR, they want to generate $1 million in annual revenue in the first year of product, in the first year of launching. I mean, that's fairly generous in your first year, but I mean, hey, you know what? Let's have at it, right? They figure they could sign up an average of 200 paying customers a month, right? And so they're going to track their progress by measuring the number of demos versus the conversion rate, right? So you're not going to get a metric based on that. And then you can now you can see as you're starting to go through the process, if you're talking about you do 10 demos, you convert 3 of them, and you get an average customer value of $1,000, right? You can now start to create a baseline for that. And now you can start to see if you start changing some of the things along the way, you can start to increase that, right? Looking at the Fresh Food Express, their objective is to increase their customer retention rate from 80 to 90% over the next 6 months. That's something that they're going to use. They're going to achieve by surveying their customers. They're going to implement some changes based on said feedback, and then continue to measure their progress along the way. So deciding on a sales channel. And this is probably the most challenging part you will find in the beginning, because you just don't know what you don't know, right? So what you want to do is you want to figure out what's the most effective channel for reaching your target audience, right? And so remember I was talking earlier about, Facebook versus Instagram. If your target audience isn't there, then there's no point in you being there yourself and putting your messaging out there, or even paying to have that, right? The other thing you want to start to think about is, what are the preferences of your target audience? So if you find that the people you want to reach are reading a specific blog on a regular daily basis, and that's the audience you're trying to get to, maybe you think about sponsoring an ad with that particular blog, or they read a specific newsletter, sponsoring that newsletter so that your brand message gets into their brain and something that they're already reading. Right. And, when you're talking about, business to business, sometimes that may not necessarily be possible. So you start to do a direct sales channel, right? So you start to look at adding outbound sales to the mix, right? And having your sales rep literally calling up people and calling up people in your target audience and trying to get them to buy, using inbound leads getting inbound leads and having them call these leads to be able to, set up demos and things like that. So in the beginning, it is a very dynamic thing, and you just have to kind of try a bunch of different things if you don't know exactly where you're going to go. But once you start to understand where your customers are hanging out, and if you actually have customers, you can always start interviewing them and ask them questions about, where did you hear about us? The infamous, where did you find out about us? Doing customer interviews like that and trying to understand the mindset of where your best customers are finding your information, or coming into contact with you, or learning more about your business, that's what you want to keep doing more of. So in talking about, our examples for Dayforce, they wanted to use the direct and indirect sales channels. So a team of sales reps to conduct demos and close deals. And then an interesting indirect channel was, partnering with resellers and distributors who will sell the product to their customer base, right? And so, that is basically hedging your bets, right? So you're looking at ensuring that you get your sales reps to go out and close the business, but you also have this indirect channel that is going to help you close the business as well, which is the best of both worlds for most B2B businesses. For Fresh Food Express, they're going to use some online channels as their primary sales methods. So, direct people to their website so they can sign up for the service, utilize email marketing and social media advertising to drive traffic to the website. All of these things are designed to be able to, get people's eyeballs on your stuff, right? And then this is probably one of the most challenging things to think about when you're talking about sales is establishing a sales process, simply because of the fact that no sales are linear. Customers don't work in a linear fashion, and you'll find as over the course of your sales career, they're never going to do what it is that you want when you want them to. And so you find that, people talk about a funnel and how, you put them in the funnel and you kind of all just funnel down to the bottom where you end up getting a sale at the bottom. And it's actually not really like that, because, they may read something about you and then, maybe they download something from your website, or they go to your website and they see something else and they sign up for your newsletter. And instead of an actual funnel, the pattern looks very zigzaggy, and it may look like it doesn't make any sense when you think about it, right? And so, you have to understand that because nobody goes in a specific linear fashion, but the concept of how they get to where you need them to go is the same. So you start looking at, I'm going to generate some leads. So I'm going to get some people's attention, and I'm going to figure out how, once I have their attention, what I'm going to do with them. Right. So then you want to start qualifying these prospects and understanding, are they actually good customers for me? And then how are we going to close our deals? And then on top of how we're going to close our deals, how are we going to deliver the product at the end? Right. And these are all very important things that you want to start to think about and understand how you do that, because if along the way you start missing steps, or you aren't able to do them properly, you'll end up in a situation where you'll find that customers get confused along the way. And if they're confused along the way, then they actually don't want, they'll choose to find somewhere else to go. Right. And then from a internal process position situation, if you build a business where you've got, I've got an inbound lead gen team, I've got outbound sales reps, I've got I've got a marketing team that I need to coordinate with, and then I've got a customer success team that I need to work with, looking at all of those various different areas. And unfortunately, if you're an entrepreneur, you are wearing all of those hats. But I mean, if you've got a small team of individuals you're working with, I mean, you might want to consider how they all play into this whole entire process, from, the person getting to know you and learn about you, all the way to actually delivering them a final product. And so looking at our examples again, we've got, for Dayforce, they are talking about generating leads through trade shows and online advertising, qualifying them with their internal sales reps, doing demos, and then working with them to finalize the deals and get them set up as a customer. Same thing for Fresh Food Express, generating leads through their website and their social media, qualifying leads based on their budgeting, sending a proposal, or in their case, they're not necessarily sending a proposal to individuals, but letting them know their pricing. Right. And then working with them to finalize a deal to get them set up as a customer if they call you. And a lot of times self-service is good, but there's sometimes when people just need to understand what it is they're about to buy and they want to talk to somebody. I mean, I can't tell you how much I really dislike when I can't get the information I want from their website, and I just want to actually talk to somebody, and there's no option for me to be able to do that. So it is very important that you make sure that people are able to get information from you when they're looking for it. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about training your sales teams. So, ensuring that your sales teams have the knowledge and skills they need is a very important endeavor. And again, if you're an entrepreneur, you may be the salesperson. So, you got to educate yourself on your product, and your product best. So you're actually really in a good position to sell it. Providing training on your product or service. If there's other people involved who are going to be selling it, you really need to be able to tell them what it is they need to know, what's important, why it's important, how your product stacks up to the competition, and educating them all these things, or else they won't be able to effectively sell for you. And just giving them the tools that they need to do that. So, I mean, there is a lot of talk around, from an entrepreneurial perspective, creating yourself your own little tech stack for marketing. Even if you're a one-person sales team, building yourself a CRM, because or not building, but getting a CRM into your system so that you can automate some tasks. You can recognize when you need to follow up with people. CRMs are really good for that type of thing. There's some that will integrate with your your email platform, or MailChimp or ConvertKit or whatever, right? And you can then send automated emails after you talk to a customer, and it will just, package up the proposal and send it off to them, right? And so automating those types of tasks are very, very helpful. So figuring out what kind of tools you would need to make that process simple for you and whoever is going to be selling for you is also a really good thing to do. So back to our examples about Dayforce and Fresh Foodie Express. So Dayforce is talking about, conducting training sessions for each of for their sales team, making sure they understand what effective sales techniques are. How to handle objections and closing deals is something that is very, very important to learn. And understanding customer relationships, and, sales is a relationship business, and I don't care what anybody says, B2B, B2C, you have to develop some type of relationship to be able to say, I want to give this person my money, right? And by relationship, I don't mean that, you need to be the huge proponent of that particular company or whatever else and all that. More so that, there's something about that particular brand or service or product that you like, and you want to buy more of it, right? And that is the relationship that everybody has with every brand that they purchase. Because trust me, if you try to tell people who regularly go to Tim Hortons try to go to Starbucks, probably not going to happen, and vice versa, right? And again, it's not about the products themselves, because really at the end of the day, it's just a cup of coffee, right? But some people are so attached to the brands that they work with, and because that's simply just because of the relationship they have with it, right? And so understanding that is very, very important. And once people have that relationship with your brand, they will consistently go back to you time and time again. And then we talked a little bit about, your metrics and understanding, what it is that you're doing. So tracking the success of your sales efforts is part of that whole understanding your metrics and creating your targets and your goals. And then once you've done all of that, understanding that, you're going to need to make adjustments to your strategy as you go, simply because if you see something that's working, well, shit, do more of that. If you see something that's not working, do less of that and try to pivot into something else. And that's really how you're going to optimize the results that you're going to be getting. So for both Dayforce and for Fresh Foodie Express, we've kind of come up with a plan for them to be able to measure the success of their strategy. So, looking at lead conversions, looking at average deal sizes, the customer retention, tracking the percentage of your customers who have continued to use the product over time is a really big metric, because you can now start to look for people who are similar to them and start marketing to them. And if you guys are familiar with Facebook ads, they call this lookalike marketing. So customers who look like this particular person, or prospects who look like this customer I work with, are the ones who I want to talk to. And that is the perfect way for you to be able to create a really cool ideal customer profile, simply because of the fact that if this particular style of customer buys from you, then there's a good chance you might be able to convince somebody who's similar to them of the same thing. And you do all of these things well, and guess what? You have made a sale. Woohoo! Everybody, give yourself a hand. Awesome. You've made a sale. However, what's next? So this is where the fun stuff that I find about sales and marketing comes into play, because what would happen to your sales if you were to add a little bit of buyer psychology into the mix? And this would be, in my opinion, the end result. Your sales and your revenue would skyrocket. And you have to understand from a buyer psychology perspective, two very, very important things. All right. Why do people buy? So at its most basic primal level, people typically buy things for one of two reasons. One, to avoid a pain or a loss, or to gain something. So gain or pleasure, avoid pain or a loss. And if you think about every single purchase you've made in your entire life, it's probably very close to reality, right? And to throw it back to our example of our Dayforce and Fresh Food Express, these people, they're looking to do, the people who they're trying to sell to want to do something, either one of these two things, right? And they have what's called trigger events, right? So a trigger event is a moment when a buyer moves from all of a sudden realizing, wait, I have this problem and I really decide, I'm decided right now, I want to try to solve it. So if we're talking back to our examples of Dayforce HR and Fresh Foodie Express, this is a typical customer that Dayforce would be talking to. When their business started, there's only 3 employees. Now there's 10, and it's harder and more time consuming for one person to manage all of those HR tasks manually, right? And so Dayforce HR, that's their ideal customer, right? Because they can now market to that customer and say, look, we have this product that can solve this problem for you, where it's going to be easier and less time consuming for one person to manage all of these things, right? And so they're going to gain something and avoid this pain, right? And that's the trick here, is to put people in a position where they're going to avoid the pain of what it is that they're feeling, and gain something in the process. Right. And same thing with Fresh Food Express. I'm hungry. Well, that's a pain, and I don't have time to cook. Right. That's the pain they're trying to solve. Well, there's a lot of food delivery services, but none of them feature healthy meal options. So guess what? As Fresh Food Express, my message is going to be, well, if you're hungry, you don't have time to cook, come talk to us. We have all of these great healthy meal options, and and we're using local companies where there's food waste. We utilize food from local agriculture, and all of those things that would matter to those types of people, they can talk about because of this trigger event, right? And so understanding why people do the things that they do when it comes to purchasing, it's going to help you in your along your sales journey. And then talking about how people tend to buy. And, if you think about when you're ready to buy something, there's everybody pretty much goes through the same thing, right? You decide, okay, I've got this problem that I want to solve, right? So now become, as they call it, problem aware, right? So I'm now going to start looking for ways to solve said problem, right? I'm going to now start to think about, once I've got some of the answers, what is the best solution? What am I going to do? I'm going to start continue looking for more information. And then I'm going to hit this decision stage where I know what the solution is, or sorry, I have an idea of who can provide the solution. Now I just need to figure out who I'm going to buy from, right? And so, we talk about the awareness stage in that, when people are looking for information about you, what are they going to do? First thing is they're going to Mr. Google, right? There's a reason Google is a verb, right? They're going to look on their social media feeds. They're going to want to talk to their friends. Word of mouth is a very, very powerful driver of consumer behavior, right? Is that whole know, like, and trusting. Because if I trust this person who's telling me that they went to this particular business and got really great service, there's a good chance I actually might, try them out because I trust the person who's telling me this, right? And so, you know, when you're talking about awareness, people are looking for information. So you have to educate them and be the type of person who's going to tell them what it is what they need to know. You understand what they're trying to achieve, and you have a solution that will meet their needs. And that when they're in the consideration stage, they're going to continue their researching and looking to figure out potential solutions, right? So they're now going to start to dig even deeper and start to get more information about you and do that whole deep dive into your organization, hopefully to find all of the good information that you've got available for them so they can make an informed decision, right? And so if they've gone to the point of now looking deeper into your company, you're now being seen as a reliable source of information for them, right? They realize that in order for them to solve said problem, they're going to have to get some assistance. All right. Now we've gotten to the decision stage. And so we're talking about, they've created a short list and they're going into a detailed information gathering mode where they're going to decide if you are the best person to solve that particular problem. And, they've shortlisted a bunch of different companies, and now they're going to figure out who it is they're going to buy from. But there is one really, 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 really important thing that you have to understand. At this point, they are deciding whether or not it's worth to pay you what it is that you are asking for. So what that means is you can have all of the answers and do all the things right. But if they decide that they don't want to give you their hard-earned money for your solution, you are dead in the water, right? And there's a whole line of thinking that I talk about with people. It's like, if you can't get people to give you money for your business, for what it is that you offer, then you've just got a hobby. And the reason why I say that is because, unfortunately, businesses exist to make money. No matter what it is that you're doing, that's the only reason why they exist, to make money, to either pay for themselves or to generate revenue. There's no other way around it. If you're not doing any of those things, then it's just a side exercise hobby thing for you, right? And you're just doing shit for free at that point, right? Getting people to give you their hard-earned money for your product or service is always going to be the end goal. And trying to ensure that they understand that is something that you have to spend a lot of time doing. And then now that you've got a customer, once you've created that connection and they've given you their money and you've delivered the service, now there's that whole after sales type service thing that you have to start thinking about, right? Because creating that customer experience is going to determine whether or not they buy from you again, or they tell others about the experience that they had and encourage them to also buy from you, right? If that experience is negative, I guarantee you'll never hear from them again, and they may end up telling everybody and their grandmother, on social media or wherever, not to do business with you, right? And so you want to introduce things that can reinforce their purchase decision. Because I tell you, there's this thing that they call buyer's remorse. I don't know if you've ever heard about it. It's usually that time when you just realize you've given somebody your credit card information, and then all of a sudden it's like, did I just do the right thing? They might feel that maybe there's a better option out there, or they may have paid too much for it, or they have some type of regret. It's like, maybe I shouldn't have bought that because they couldn't afford it at that particular point in time. All of those things go through people's minds when they buy stuff, right? And so you want to eliminate as much of that as possible. And then comes the loyalty stage where, you're talking about, this is where you can encourage customers who've had a good customer experience to tell others about it and create those testimonials or offer referrals to you. And, you can create a referral program that would allow people to, perhaps be rewarded for referring to you. So if you're talking about an e-commerce situation, maybe if they refer a customer, you give them a coupon for 10% off their next order type thing. right? And the idea behind is if your customer is happy with the experience of purchasing from you, they will tell others about it, and also it increases the chances of them wanting to do it again. And so I talk about the first three stages of how customers buy, but it's really about the entire journey that they're going to experience. And then when you're talking about how you kind of move people along this, and again, this isn't really linear, but it is just something that, the best way to describe what it is we're talking about, when people are at the awareness stage, right? Where are they looking for information? So they're going to get in, as I said, word of mouth, social media, going to Google, right? And looking at online ads that you've created. When they hit the consideration stage, they're now thinking about, maybe signing up for your newsletter if you're a B2B company, or, trying to learn more about what it is that you have to offer. Then when we get to the acquisition stage or the decision stage, they're now actually buying and giving you their money, right? And then talking about the after service thing. So now that they've given you your money, what's the experience like after, right? If you've got an e-commerce brand, what happens after they've purchased? Do you tell them about the returns? Do you offer them coupons to buy more? If you're talking about a business to business, now that they've bought this thing, do you just leave them out in the cold, or do you actually offer some type of wraparound support that's going to help them really utilize the product and get the most out of it? And then the final stage is the whole loyalty thing, where it's like, okay, now you're asking them about their experience and saying, did you enjoy working with us? Could you give us a testimonial? Or is there anybody who you think would a referral? So is there anybody you think would be good to work with who would benefit the same as you? All of these things kind of encompass the entire customer experience. And I mean, personally, if you do all of these things right, this is going to be the end result. Everybody's just going to come up to you and say, here, take my money, please. Now, I've talked a lot. I've got a few final thoughts. I mean, I've always got thoughts about things, but these are some of the things that I find that are very important to make sure that as part of your sales strategy, you really understand and you want to make sure that you're including this line of thinking in what it is you're doing. So the first one is, your product has to meet the needs of the individuals you're talking about. So when it comes to buying, they don't really care what it is you're selling. That you could have the greatest product in the world. If nobody cares about it, it doesn't matter. However, what they do care about is, what will I get if I buy this thing? Right. And that's the key driver for pretty much anybody who's about to purchase something. All right. So you have to meet their needs, and you have to be able to explain to them what they're going to get out of it. Right. Showing your value to the product, to the prospect. Right. So people have a tendency to buy on emotion and then use logic to justify what it is that they've just purchased. Right. So buying on value and showcasing that to them really helps with that whole buying decision, right? And understanding that, they're about to get something that is really truly valuable to them. I don't know if anybody here is old enough to remember the movie Jerry Maguire. There's a line in the movie where, Tom Cruise says to Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, is like, help me help you, right? In many sales situations, you think about it, people don't like to be sold to. I don't remember the last time I actively said to somebody, you know what, you just called me, I'm going to pick up the phone, you're going to try to pitch me something on the phone, and I'm going to say, yeah, sure, I'll buy it. It's like, no, that's not how that works, right? I don't want you to sell to me, but I want to buy something if you provide me with enough information for me to be able to make an informed decision. I know that's not necessarily how everybody thinks, but for the most part, when you're talking about, business B2B, it is very important for them to be able to say, you know what, we want to buy the solution. So we want to make sure that we aren't getting pitched to. right? Companies in a B2B scenario need to figure out what's best for them, and also in a B2C scenario as well too, because customers want to understand what's the best course of action for them, and they want to buy a solution that is going to help them do that. Whether or not it's your solution is the question. And early in my sales career, I used to get in trouble for doing this all the time. Sales managers look at me like I'm crazy, and I would actively tell people, if our product was not going to meet their needs, go find somebody else, because we can't do that for you. And I still do that to this day. If somebody had come to me talking about, they wanted me to help them with their marketing, and they didn't have everything that they needed, and I would just look at them and say, look, you need to do all of these things first before I can help you do this, and so you need to go somewhere else to do that, right? It's really about helping them understand what's best for them at that particular moment in time. And then lastly, this is probably the biggest thing. It's really about trust. It's the one thing that if you don't have trust in any selling situation, you will not be able to sell anything to anybody. People aren't going to buy anything from you if they don't trust you. And remember my example earlier about a guy coming up to you on the street trying to sell you iPhones out of his jacket pocket. If that's your business model, you're not going to sell a lot of product. It's just not going to work, because there's people can't establish trust with somebody like that. And it is the single biggest thing that you can talk about when it comes to sales. I mean, you think about it. It takes what was it they say, Craig, 10 seconds to lose trust with somebody, but it could take like years to establish it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just seconds to lose trust.
Yeah, and it happens just like that. But you have to take a long time to establish it. So the moment it's lost, your sale's gone. And so if they think that you're being shady in some way, or you're trying to take advantage of them, or they think that you're going to sell them a lemon, that's going to kill your sale pretty damn quick. And then just my last point that I want to make here, and I know we're running past time here, Craig, so I do apologize for that. But when it comes to sales, there's really truly one thing that prospects, and when I say prospects, I just mean people in general, fear the most when it comes to parting with their hard-earned cash. Am I making the right decision, or is this a wrong one? If you can eliminate that feeling from them, you will have a much easier chance of getting them to purchase something from you. And that is me. I am done. Craig,
Thank
you
you,
can have
Trevor. That was
your
great. We were
presentation back.
yeah, we had a little rough start there, but looks like everyone hung out for all of that. If you have any questions for Trevor, throw them in the chat room. And I think what we'll do is we'll reschedule this again, because this video isn't, too good for reuse, probably, because the way we started and whatnot. And so we'll reschedule maybe in a month or so. But do people have questions for what about the menswear moving into home furnishings potentially? Yes, the hours, they all seem booked. I'll have to take a look. I posted the link to our office hours with you, Trevor, in the chat room, and they all seem to be booked. So I will send out the presentation to everyone who registered with this event. I go through those and make sure that they're valid. Sometimes people, they don't even have a product yet, and they're trying to build something or whatnot. There's a lot of things. So there may be people that cancel. So I'll send those links out again. And if spots are available, I'll let people on the list know.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do this again. If you want to do it live, we can, and we can just do a direct to video thing.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again for everyone. Thanks for sticking out. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all your time today, Trevor.
Oh, wait, Eva asked a question earlier. She wanted to talk about collaborators or something like that. Where did that question go?
She was looking for people to advertise or collaborate with her?
Is she still here?
Yes, she is.
All right. So
She runs
can
an
I talk?
online lifestyle magazine. She'd love to attract more advertisers and brand collaborators.
And so actually, can we talk right now, or or is this going to be only through chat?
We can, if Eva's willing to talk, I could enable her to talk if she wants. You'll just have to unmute your mic, Eva. Oh, there you go.
Craig, you are muted.
Oh, yeah, probably have to ask her a question. She looks like she's talking's permitted and her mic's unmute.
All right, Ava. Hi, how are you?
We can't hear you, Eva. All right.
Oh,
Not sure why. Oh, well, see, this is the problem when we try to do stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes
that's okay.
not.
Okay, so here's my first thoughts on the cloud. And the reason why I wanted to ask a couple of questions just to kind of clarify before I answered you, because I mean I'm kind of just flying blind here. But looking for influencers is a very what's what we're looking here for. You have to be very, very why can't I think of the word right now? Direct in how you do it, and very choosy of oh, okay, I see the problem.
No, I have to give them access individually, and I gave Eva access, just her mic's not working for some reason.
So you have to be very choosy about who you work with, because not all influencers are made equal. You'll find sometimes that influencers, they may end up having like a lot of followers, like, let's say 10,000 followers, but maybe only 100 people are engaged with them, which is absolutely horrible when it comes to metrics like that, right? Versus somebody who's got maybe 300 followers, but has 100 who are irregularly engaged with them. That's a big difference, right? And so looking at the engagement and how they work is more important than the actual total number of followers in that regard. Does that make sense?
Yes. And so when she's looking for advertisers or collaborators, from a collaboration point of view, if she's looking at influencers, she should look at engagement.
Yeah.
And what kind of, because she's starting out in her online magazine, where should she start looking for collaborators? Should be big brands, should be looking for small brands, like where?
Okay, so
where's the
hang on.
place to
She
start?
just posted something in the chat that says she's not looking for influencers. So what do you define as a collaborator then?
Advertisers.
So advertisers and collaborators are the same thing?
Advertisers, and brands. Brands advertising their stuff, I guess, is the same thing. They want traffic. So,
And who's the audience that you're targeting?
fashion and beauty brands. But who's your online magazine targeted for? Women.
And so what is the value prop here in that? What are you offering these women for their attention? What are you giving them?
Mainly based in the US.
What's the topic?
It's a lifestyle magazine for women online.
Sure, but there's like 1,000 different types that you can.
I know, but she's talking about fashion and beauty, so it's got to be fashion and beauty.
Yeah, and an international website, which is fair. I mean, and this is the challenge that you're going to have, because it's one of those chicken egg type things. Advertisers only want to go if they know you've got eyeballs, and the more advertisers you have, and the more stuff you can feature, means you can get more eyeballs. So it's really kind of hard to to do that chicken egg dance thing. However, if I were you and you wanted to up your readership, find out where the women who you are trying to target specifically, because, and again, women is really broad, right? That's a whole lot of women that you can talk about, and not necessarily all women would be interested in what it is that you're doing. So, as I'm sure you can appreciate, not all, very specific target. Okay, so your very specific target, where are they hanging out? Okay, fair enough. You can't type that fast. I got it. So where are they hanging out? Where are you going to get their attention the most, and start just, putting your message out in front of them that way. If you're using ads for like Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, creating audiences that will allow you to maybe steal from somebody else, so a similar audience to one of your competitors, maybe try to steal some of those eyeballs. It's really hard for me to assess all of that kind of thing just in a short period of time that we're talking about, but those are I would kind of look at. Is it okay to use ads to bring more traffic? Again, how much money do you have? If you've got a lot of money to burn, and because that's essentially what's going to happen, because until you've created a really good velocity of subscribers and new subscribers on a regular basis, it's going to it's going to be like a big money suck for you in the very beginning, because they won't necessarily turn into revenue until you start getting more advertisers, right? Make a nice little video for your website. That is a very good idea. And the beautiful part, Eva, is that if Craig can set up more times for us to talk through office hours, I'd be more than happy to have a further conversation with you about this. But we crowdsourcing, sometimes these types of ideas are really good simply because of the fact that other people have done these things before, so they're more inclined to be able to help you and some ideas that maybe you haven't thought of. And listen, I'm not the be all and end all, so there's ideas maybe that I haven't thought of as well. So I mean, having multiple people around with good ideas might be able to help spark some other things. I'm a big fan of whiteboards. I love whiteboarding and stuff, and sometimes you think it could be a real disparate and out of the box idea, all of a sudden can turn into something that's actually very viable just because you threw them all up into a board.
If you need advertisers, then you need traffic, and that's just and the best way to get traffic is have a really strong SEO strategy. You really need to take a look at every aspect of your business, work with someone who knows SEO, so that you can figure that out. Like, look at something like what the Canva model did, and there's a few others where they made all sorts of templates and whatnot. But like, you're competing with cost per clicks on any other platform, which is cost very little money for people, right? For the average cost per click, to make $5,000 a month, you need 1.5 million impressions at $3.12 clicks per thousand. So like, that's a lot of traffic. So it's not just a good idea, it's a must. If you don't have viewers, why would people advertise with you? Why would they spend any money? So they really have to get that going. And when I say SEO, like Canva did about templates for invitations for parties, for this, for school teachers, for every types of business, so they drive traffic, anybody looking for those things. So you got to take that and extract that to you and say, all right, I'm a fashion lifestyle brand, so I have to blog and write articles and put content up about every possible lifestyle scenario my target audience are into. Red dress or blue dress at this prom. Again, I'm not a fashion thing, but you really got to sit back, work with your SEO, and develop a strategy around all those lines of clothes and everything that you do. And only that way will you drive the traffic you're looking for.
And take a close look at your competitors and what they're doing, and I mean, I'm not above copying a strategy from a competitor if I can afford to do it. If it's working for them and then they're targeting the same audience as you, I mean, you might be able to steal some customers that way.
Oh yeah, when you're talking about this kind of stuff, SEO and everything else, you steal whatever works for your competition, what advertising works. Take a look at sites like What Runs Where, similar to those are sites where you can analyze competitors' traffic, where their traffic is coming from, their ads, how their ads are doing. You can take a look at all these things and see, what works for them and implement that into your marketing strategy. So Orlando's like, then they would probably do free collaborative relationship with ideal brands and use that evidence for the next client pitch. Yeah. And you start thinking about, okay, from an SEO point of view, why don't I start using big names like, I don't know, Yves Saint Laurent, and then plus my local designers, and say, and put together articles on comparing those two, that kind of thing, where you're driving heavy traffic from those big names as while you're pitching your product. Orlando, you have a brand as well. It's a men's clothing brand, I believe, right? All right. So who are you targeting? Obviously, besides men, is there a specific, is it active men? Is it young men? Is it men who are dating? Is it men who are stylish? Also been stylish for a few years. So basically, the modern dating slash looking good, upper mobile professional man. I'm gonna, for lack of a better description. So over to you, Trevor. What would you do to help build that a sales strategy around that? Where would you try and get your clothing, your brand in front of?
Influencers, that's the biggest thing that I would try for. See if you can find somebody who would wear your stuff for free if you have to, or somebody who will talk about your stuff, because that's going to be your biggest source of attention. Because you can, and Craig talks about this SEO strategy that is very important for your your website and what is you're doing. But from a social media perspective, also as well, where are the individuals you're trying to attract? Where are they hanging out? And what do they look at? What do they read? Where do they go? And just try to put yourself in front of them at every turn.
Absolutely. SEO is morely focused on, if you're an advertiser, you need to be if you're focused on driving advertising as your to get the traffic there. But as a clothing brand, you don't necessarily, you should be working with people like Eva who have websites to write articles, to get your brand exposure, to give yourself backlinks, and like you said, local influencers, maybe offering them clothes, to be on the runway at certain events in Toronto, talk about musicians that are launching. There's a lot of ways to get in front of the people and use influencing to build your brand around your style of clothes. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work, unfortunately, in the beginning, trying to really figure this stuff out, because unfortunately none of us have a crystal ball as to what's going to work. So you're going to find there's going to be a lot of trial and error in this. And people say, well, just use data. Well, if you have zero to start with, it's really hard for you to use data to figure out where you need to go. So you need to generate some data by just trying some shit out.
Yeah, and the question is, do you want your clothes in stores? Are you selling it all online?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a Shopify place? Are there other brand stores that you're putting your stuff onto? All these have an influence, right? Like if you can get um a local celebrity or whatnot wearing your clothes around town, then maybe you can influence local stores to start carrying your stuff. So this all becomes part of I like to do the strategy. How am I getting a new client for your point of view? How am I getting a new stream, either a new client or a new retail outlet or new whatever for my, this week I need one more, or today I need one more, tomorrow I need two more. You got to figure out what your strategy is to build those things.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate it. Iman, sorry, what was your business? We didn't answer any questions about you. Since you're still here, we might as well. Making movies. Oh, no wonder you mentioned making a video for people's website. That's probably what you're doing. You're doing your little sales pitch.
I saw a website here about movies. What was it?
Yes, good job, buddy. Keep pitching. I'm looking for it. I don't see it here. But he did post it somewhere.
Yeah, I thought I saw a website for it.
All right. So you're doing videos for products for people?
Feature films. Okay, cool.
But I mostly work on feature films. Fashion magazine. Yeah, I don't see him on. Oh, goodmovie.ca. There it is. Found it. Okay, cool.
And so making feature movies. So what's the goal here? What's your business model? What are you trying to, who are you selling to?